Hi, Adam Lerner here, just shooting a quick video. It's funny when people find out that our practice here specializes in the health, in women's health and fertility. One of the most common questions we get answered here in the office and even out at parties is, how is it that acupuncture actually helps fertility? So I want to take a quick minute to answer that for folks, and let's sort of dive in. So basically, there are three main effects that acupuncture has that has a beneficial effect for fertility. The first is its effect on stress hormones, right? So researchers have known since the early 80s that acupuncture actually can mitigate stress hormones. And there's a ton of research out there that shows that when folks are more stressed out and when their stress hormones are elevated, that they have a more difficult time conceiving. So this is not a small thing. There's actually, I know for a fact that there are several physicians that we've worked with here who actually refer us patients, their patients who are going through the fertility process. And there are several of them that, I don't think, I think the only effect that they really sort of believe that acupuncture has to do with this reduction in stress for their patients, but they still think that this is important enough to refer them to our practice. So, we know for a fact that, acupuncture does much more than this, but even if this is all it did, that would be pretty significant. The second major mechanism that acupuncture, that affects acupuncture's ability to help fertility patients is its ability to regulate all the hormones that are involved in regulating the menstrual cycle. So, the exact mechanism for this, from a biomedical perspective, isn't really known yet. It's still a little bit mysterious, right? So acupuncture doesn't add hormones to the body. It doesn't take hormones away, but it has a regulatory effect. And where we see this, what's really interesting actually, if we were, over the past, dozen years or so, we've literally worked with hundreds of different couples. And if you were to graph out on a graph how long someone was working with us and how long it took for them to get pregnant, one of the things you would see is in the first 4 to 6 weeks of working with us, there's this big blip of people who get pregnant right out of the chute. And after that, it sort of distributes out more evenly, right? But there's this initial blip of people who get pregnant right, almost right away. And I've always thought, sort of with good reason, that the reason for this has to do with the fact that their hormones were just a teeny bit off. The menstrual cycle is very complicated. And if just one little hormone is off just by a teeny bit and things don't happen in the right time, people have a difficult time conceiving. And when people start getting acupuncture right out of the chute, there's a regulatory effect. What we see also, very objectively, is there are oftentimes very significant changes in the period. So short periods become longer, heavy periods become lighter, really light periods become heavier. People who have a lot of PMS, we see a reduction in that. People with very heavy bleeding gets lighter, et cetera, et cetera. These changes are so predictable. Within 2 or 3 cycles, in almost all cases, we see these kinds of objective changes that happen with the cycle. And the reason why we see these changes is because the underlying hormonal balance is improving. So that's obviously a big deal. The third mechanism by which acupuncture can affect fertility has to do with blood flow, right? So acupuncture is one of the only ways it's been demonstrated to increase blood flow to the uterus and ovaries. And this is super important, right? Because we know that, we know it makes an enormous difference, right? So when women reach towards the end of their reproductive life, right, in their sort of mid to late 30s, they tend to have significantly less, 5 times less blood flow to the uterus and ovaries than women who are at their reproductive peak. And if you think about it, all the good stuff that's needed by our developing eggs, right? All the oxygen, all the nutrition, all the hormonal signaling, all of that, it reaches those eggs, those follicles that have been lying dormant inside via the blood. And acupuncture is one of the only ways it's actually been demonstrated to increase blood flow to the uterus and ovaries. This is really important for a bunch of reasons, right? This is important for creating a healthy endometrium where, a hopefully, fertilized egg can implant, make a nice healthy home. This is also, though, really important for women who are concerned about egg quality. Many of our patients are coming sort of at a later stage in their reproductive life, and they've been told that maybe their egg quality isn't great. And one of the best ways that we feel like we can affect egg quality is by increasing the quality of the nutrition and blood flow and oxygenation and hormonal signals that their follicles are receiving through the development phase, right? The process of development, where we go from a follicle to an egg, that process is called folliculogenesis, right? And that process lasts about 5 months, but most of the development happens in about 3 months. And we feel like if we can improve the blood flow to those ovaries during that whole developmental phase, that there can be really significant changes and really significant improvement in egg quality. What we see clinically in our practice is women who go through a preparation phase, where they've not had success, at the end of a 3-month preparation phase, all of a sudden they're able to conceive. This blood flow mechanism is really, really important for women who are going through IVF and IUI and other assisted reproductive interventions, right? So in our practice, about half of our patients we're working with are just trying to conceive naturally. About another half are working with a reproductive endocrinologist to try to conceive. And this blood flow piece becomes very, very important, because in addition to all the other things we talked about, the medications also are able to get into the follicles through the blood. So one of the things we can do by increasing the blood flow to the ovaries, we can actually get more of the medication down into the ovaries to do what it's supposed to do. And once again, we've worked with many patients who have had unsuccessful IVF cycles, and then they add acupuncture to their protocol, and they're all of a sudden able to conceive. And we feel like this is one of the reasons why we see those successes. So those are the 3 big mechanisms by which acupuncture can help fertility. Just to review, the first is a mitigating of stress hormones. The second is improving of the hormonal balance. And the third is improving in blood flow. If you have any additional questions about this, we're always happy to arrange a free consultation for folks who have questions about how acupuncture and Chinese medicine might be helpful for them in their health journey. And thanks for taking a couple of minutes and being with us. Thanks.